Welcome to Between Two Pastries, a not-so-typical nutrition podcast. Nicole and Annie are licensed and registered dietitians. Join them as they discuss hot nutrition topics, challenge popular beliefs, and have a blast doing it. Here are your hosts, Nicole and Annie.
Welcome to Between Two Pastries. This is Nicole.
Hey everyone, it's Annie.
Today we are talking about a couple subjects that kind of go hand in hand, and it really starts off with defining what movement is. There was a recent client question around wanting to understand more of what we can consider movement in our days, and this particular individual did take Annie and I have a 4-week series class that we offer that you can purchase on the website. I'll include the link in the show notes here. And she took the class and we did a whole section on movement, which we also do in our book, by the way, too. And she did not realize how much she was actually moving in the course of a day because she wasn't counting it because she assumed she had to have a regular structured exercise program. And so she wanted to get a better idea of, or a better understanding around how movement is actually defined. There's movement and then there's exercise. I hate to put the two separate, but I think what I'm also trying to say is there's the type of exercise that you're exercising your heart, right? You're trying to get it, trying to get it elevated for a while and holding that, right? That's working that heart muscle, right? And then there's movement where your increased circulation, your metabolic rate is increasing because you're moving, you're utilizing all of your muscle groups, you're going up and down your stairs because you're doing laundry, you're cleaning things out, you're cleaning the house, you're gardening, you're doing all of these kinds of things. You're painting.
Right. And Nicole, I think people have to understand when I engage in walking, that's not hard. When Susie Q engages in walking, that might be hard and the heart is pumping. So movement, yes. There's a wide spectrum of movement and this pendulum of what some people might think as I didn't really do much, even though it was 4 hours of yard work, swinging all the way to I did an Ironman and that was movement because I felt my heart beating. Everyone always wants an external response. So when people say they did movement or exercise, it generally is because they felt their heart rate or breathing was elevated or sweat appeared. They have a sensation, but yet neglect the fact that when they do yard work and they do have some cardiovascular, response, right? That that's not exercise. I didn't go to the gym. I didn't run or bike or do the things that people in the general world consider movement. It's like a status thing in a way. But what people forget is that I remember when on a treadmill, 4.0 was a challenge.
Sure.
That's 4 miles per hour. I remember when 8 miles an hour was easy. Everyone is different in terms of where they're at from a cardiovascular standpoint and what might be a challenge. And I think it's really important to note that it doesn't always have to be a cardiac response that's occurring when we do movement for it to be a really, really positive thing. And one person I'm thinking of that we've both worked with, who does listen to the podcast and has she's a wonderful human being and a really good head on her shoulders. But do you remember, Nicole, when we both had at some point worked with this person who really struggled with I'm over or now 40, and this concept of I don't have to do cardiovascular work, hard work every single day. Not only can I take a rest day, but it's okay for the over 40 crowd to go on a walk. That can actually be more powerful that body at a particular age, right?
Yeah.
That we allow it that more low to moderate type of activity.
Mm-hmm.
So movement can look really, really different, but in the grand scheme of things, anytime you move your body, it's movement.
It's movement. And I think that that's kind of the other piece. And if I remember this conversation that I had with this client, I think another connection that she had also made was she was surprised at what her phone told her that she expended, let's say, for the day. Okay. And again, Annie and I have our feelings about these apps and things we can put on our phone, and that's not really what I want to discuss. But my point is that it at least made her aware that she was expending more than she actually thought, doing just kind of daily activities that, that she enjoys doing, right? Or that she would just need to be doing in the course of the day. And I think it's important that this is just another example of that our bodies need nutrition, because the piece then is, I didn't do enough today, so I can't eat. Annie and I've done, I think, several different topics about earning, or pods labeled differently, but about earning food and things like that. But whether you are seeing it as earning food or not, people are still thinking like, well, I hardly moved today, or I didn't do my workout today, so I need less. And it's like, that's your head talking. Like, are we, checking in with your body? Because the thing is that, especially if you're moving around all day, whatever that is, especially if anybody has ever painted or moved, like moving their home, you know what I'm saying? Like that kind of thing, where you are literally moving all day. You're expending more than you would be in your one single workout.
Right.
But I don't think people get that.
But I don't have the external heartbeat sweat response.
Sure. Right.
And so that's the difference.
And it didn't feel hard. So
it didn't feel hard.
I'm
not worthy then.
Right. I didn't work hard enough or what have you. So, yeah. So it's just kind of making that distinction of just being really careful about continuing to honor like what our bodies, needs are. Yeah.
Well, and to your point, prior to starting the recording, now let's take it a step further to the amount of anxiety people feel when, oh my God, I have to move my house today or do all of this yard work. I didn't get my exercise routine in. I did 4 hours of yard work. I can't eat because I didn't get this exercise routine in. My training is sabotaged. I'm gaining weight. I'm all of a sudden it's this like catastrophic event that it can occur, or just a simple, well, I'm not eating, or I can't eat the cake, or I have this great anxiety around my routine being shifted.
Yes.
And that would be like an example of just in a day. We talked about how we see this anxiety quite often as it relates to vacations.
Yes, most definitely vacations.
And I can speak for myself and say I have a large vacation coming. Well, it's not a vacation, but I have a large go away and not going to be able to run trip coming up. And guess what? It is what it is. And I know I'm going to be doing the movement that I'm going to be due based on whatever is planned for me.
Right.
And I'm going to eat in response to that movement and hunger and fullness.
Right.
And whatever it looks like.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stress about the fact that I can't do exercise because I'm fearful of A, weight gain, or B, my other favorite is all my training is going to go to waste.
Oh my gosh.
I'm going to lose all my muscle.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way. You'll lose all your muscle if you choose not to fuel your body appropriately and on days that you're not working out. That's hands down. And that's kind of another point that I want to make is that, people then will start manipulating, right? It's all in their head. They're not even paying attention to what their body is saying. All they are is listening to what their distorted, thoughts are kind of telling them in a sense too, where it's like, oh, well, I didn't do this today, so then I'm not going to eat X and I'm not going to eat that. And all of a sudden they're like 500 calories short. And then they go into their, workout and they can't get through the workout or they're exhausted. And then eventually that leads to like a binge. My point is that when people start manipulating like that, you get then this series of up and down, up and down, up and down calorie needs. You end up going nowhere, and you actually create more stress on the body long term, where the body goes, we're freaking stressed out. So now we better hang on to, do you know what I mean?
Right. But people can't feel that.
It's crazy though. It's just like,
Right.
let's just continue to eat normally based on where your hunger is at when it's time to eat.
Right.
Like there's no more
And
thought that needs to be put into it.
you can always go back and eat more.
Yes, that too.
Like this concept that this is my meal and I'm hungry, so I need to eat, or I'm full and now I have to sit. And it's like, there will be more food. There will be opportunity to hydrate. There is always opportunity to go move. There is always opportunity to engage in, you know, conversation and be social. Like we forget that like everything is not compartmentalized and it's not all in this one moment.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't want that to sound like, oh, I can make up or I can fix or you know, that sort of a thing, but more so eating is going to ebb and flow, and movement is going to ebb and flow, and there should be days, no 2 days should look the same with eating and movement. It should be very, what's going on today? And obviously we have schedules that keep us kind of in a routine.
Sure, of course.
It shouldn't be out of this world to have differences within our day.
Absolutely.
To say, I don't feel like doing X today, I'm going to do Y instead.
Yeah.
As it relates to movement. But again, when we have these grandiose ideas of movement or is only exercise and is only these 3 things, everything else is just easy. And I'm above all of that.
Yeah.
This concept that, well, I went for a hike, but I still have to go, you know, do my however long exercise routine.
Yeah, exactly. So again, you know, how do we define movement? And anything that you do to move your body is going to be movement. It's going to, you know, use energy. I mean, you know, what else can you say? Everything counts.
Right. I'm struggling to think what would not count as long as you're moving your body. And, you know, I even think about like, do you remember, and it might even still be on, the Sit and Be Fit, for older adults or whatever. And a lot of people scoff at that. Like, why would you do? You can make that really hard. Yes. These old people are using canned goods. I understand that, but they should be. You as perhaps a younger individual, you could do different things, but you can still do that. And it still makes a difference. Do you know how hard it is to sit tall?
Yeah.
And like how much core you're using and hip flexor movement like you're gaining with it's just funny because I remember that being on and a lot of people just kind of scoffing about it.
I taught chair aerobics for a couple of years actually.
Nice.
And even I was just like, if I'm feeling this and you're not,
right, something's wrong.
We got a problem here.
Right. It can be be a workout.
Yeah.
Even
definitely.
though it's in a chair, right? So movement can be yoga. Right. It can be putting your body in different positions. You might go to a restorative yoga class where all you do is hold 4 different positions in an hour.
Yep.
And it's very relaxing positions. That can still be movement, especially for your body when you're not used to that. That can be a struggle. You can, you know, like you said, chair things where you're sitting.
Yep.
Obviously you're walking, you know, strength training can look very different. I mean, it's
right. And a day of house cleaning or an afternoon of house cleaning or an afternoon of some project or something that's requiring you to take loads of whatever upstairs to downstairs or vice versa. That is definitely movement, you know. So if you're thinking, oh, I didn't get a workout in today, you did.
Yeah, you very well might have. It just looks differently. And looking differently, your body responds so good to that. It loves when you do things differently.
Yeah.
And Nicole, it might be worth mentioning too, like this concept of, you know, like here we did we did this workout and, or had all of, did all of these chores or whatever, and really like being okay with the fact that it does look different and that it's not something that perhaps your body is used to, and therefore you could still feel sore from something like that.
Oh,
And
definitely.
it's oftentimes like it's interpreted like, let's say you do all of that yard work and the next day
Yeah.
you're sore.
Sure.
I'm out of shape.
Right.
Well, no, it's just you did something very different.
Yeah, you
You're-
engage different muscle groups or tiny supportive muscle groups or just
Yeah, you totally did a service to your body. And no, it doesn't feel good to be sore, but like that's not a bad thing to have that response, in the sense of like you finally being able to maybe see like, oh, maybe I don't need to do 4 hours of yard work every day, but maybe I need to do some of these other types of exercises or muscle work or whatever,
totally agree.
versus the same routine all the time.
Well, and that same routine, again, our muscles just adapt. Our muscles
Yes.
try to become more efficient at what activity you give it on a very regular basis. That's the whole thing. That's what our body's job is to do, is to help somebody survive.
Right.
So it will learn a different way of doing it easier the next time. So yeah, when we do these different things, it is really helpful.
Well, I want to bring up one more point. When people talk about movement, and I know you've had people like this, I've had people like this, where they can't stop moving. Maybe
Yes.
not exercise, but it's, I'm going to do the laundry, then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and they
Right.
can't sit. This
Right.
is another problem, is people cannot sit with themselves.
Yep,
We
absolutely.
have to be able to turn it off, because when we're doing constant movement throughout the day, whatever it might look like in the form of exercise, chores, just up
Yeah.
and standing,
Of course.
can't sit down, whatever. That's not a good thing. A lot of people that I've worked with, we do so many exposures of just sitting,
Mhm.
having to watch a TV show or read a book or listen to
Sure.
music. And it obviously starts, and to the point where that's part of now their routine, because we have to be able to sit and be in our heads.
Mhm.
People who are moving all the time, they usually don't want to be with themselves.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
There's something they don't want to be thinking about. So
Right.
it's
Or
important
facing.
to, it's important to note, how much movement are you really doing outside of just going to the gym?
Right. Right. And what's the purpose of that? And that's something that we talk about too, in our
Right.
book, is a kind of purposeful or intentional, movement, and how
Right.
much of it is not, how much of it is, masking something else. So,
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So good inward things to focus on,
all right. Well, I hope that helped
everyone.
understand that a little bit, and everyone else. So yeah, thanks for listening, guys.
Bye.
Have questions you want to hear discussed on the show? Find us on Facebook or visit between2pastries.com and drop us a line. Want to support the show? Find us on Patreon for exclusive content. If you love the show, find us on iTunes or your favorite podcast platform. Hit the subscribe button and leave us a review.